truth for the battered but proud people of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and I've got Bob Savage in studio.
Happy holidays, all. I hate saying that. I mean, Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah. Christmas is just a couple days away. Everybody's, going around in a frenzy, trying to get stuff done, last minute shopping. I know for me personally, I got to do some last minute grocery shopping.
Yeah, you have a big celebration at the Casa de Hollister.
Yeah. So this year, we're going to do Christmas at my aunt's house, which is cool because for probably close to the last 10 years, I've been hosting, which I have no problems with whatsoever. It's a great time, but it's almost like a little relief. I don't have to worry about everything in the house being in order or anything like that. But yeah, I've got a fairly large family, 5 siblings, 5 aunts and uncles, mom's
That's a big family by today's standards.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of food. It's going to be a good time. But I'm thinking, just by looking outside, I don't know, probably not going to be a white Christmas this year.
Don't think so. No, it's tomorrow's, the temperature is going to drop. It'll be in the upper 30s, but still above freezing. And of course, today we're in like the 50s.
Yeah. I tell you what, it's always funny how your body adjusts. I walked out today and I was like, it feels like it's like 60 or 70 degrees
I know.
out. I ride my motorcycle into the station or something.
It's been very cold.
But then I looked at the dial. It was like 47. And I'm like, probably not. There's still some snow out there.
This is sick. This is our perspective.
Yeah. Yep. So, today I was trying to think about what to talk about. And there's just so much going on, yet at the same time seems like so little. Not much is happening locally to New York State. There's a lot going on across the country. Things are kind of slowing down because of the holidays. And I sat there and I just went through a lot of the messages I've been getting and a lot of the comments I've been getting. And a lot of it has centered around people wanting to know how to run for office, people hoping that maybe I would run for a seat, people wanting to know more information about how do they get involved politically so they could run for office. And so I thought, you know what? Why don't we talk about that today? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to the show thinking, you know what? I'm really upset with, and then insert thing here. That could be your local government, like as local as your town or your county, or definitely more than likely, if you're listening to the show, you're not happy with New York State right now.
Well, I think this is an optimistic thing. I'm glad to hear that you're getting a lot of interest in people who want to run for office.
Yeah,
because that's really important.
It is important and it's exciting, and I'm hoping that that people truly are thinking about this, because we need fresh blood in politics, especially in New York State. I mean, it's the same people who've been in charge for like decades to just swap seats, or maybe they run for something where there is no term limits. I look at, like, for me personally, I look at my school board in the city of Rochester, and I look at my city council in the city of Rochester, and the overwhelming majority of people sitting right now were elected and sitting when I was in high school. I mean, there's just no term limits there.
Not the way it's supposed to work.
No. It's supposed to be public service, not a lifetime of collecting a paycheck from the taxpayers.
Well, if they're staying there for multiple terms, something's wrong, because it's not supposed to be someplace you go and hide. and you just, as you say, collect a paycheck. It's supposed to be something that, if you read the Federalist Papers, they want a public service to be something you couldn't wait to leave behind and get back to your real life.
Yep.
It's supposed to be not lucrative. It's supposed to be, if it's paid at all, it's supposed to be, frankly, a major pain in the butt.
Yep.
Because service means sacrifice. And that's as far pretty much as you can get from a lot of elected, positions these days.
Yeah, it was never meant to be a career. Definitely not. And that is what I've seen in New York State across all levels of government. People taking public service and converting it to a career of politics. And so I've got a big problem with that, but I am very excited that so many people have reached out. So because of that, I'm going to talk you guys through the process of running for office in New York State anyways. Now, if you're listening to the show and you're outside of New York State, there's a good amount of this that's going to carry over, but some of the things like how to get on the ballot and things like that could be very different in your state. And I will say, comparatively, I think New York State is one of the only states that still has the same ballot process, so chances are very good it won't be the same. But what I do want to put out there is, if you're thinking about running for office, there's a few things that you need to do. And also, this is a really good time. And the reason this is a good time is because you're going to be around family, more than likely, for the holidays. And one of the things you're going to need to do, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, you're going to need to talk with your family about this and make sure that family is okay with this. So what better time to do that when everybody's together, probably in person, and you can have that conversation with the people who are most important to you to make sure that they are going to be on board with this, and on board with the time that you're going to spend on this. Now, with that being said, there is some stuff that you should do first before you talk with family, because there's going to be a lot of questions. If you decide to run for office, you shouldn't just go to your family right off the bat and be like, hey, I want to run for office, without having any of the information in advance, because they're going to want to know, well, how much time are you going to spend away? What is this going to cost? Is it going to cost anything? Is it going to cost a lot of money? So you want to get those things down first. So I'll give you just a couple things that you should have down first in advance before you talk with family about potentially running for office. Probably the first number one thing is make sure that you actually live in the district of the office you want to run for. And Bob's chuckling over here.
Do you think that's an obvious thing, but from certain recent experiences, that's probably not as obvious as you might think?
Yeah, and the reason for that is the districts are not clear lines. They're very gerrymandered. And, if you look at some of them, is this ridiculous swiggle all through the county and the towns and the villages. So you want to make sure that you actually live in that district. And I'll tell you, I've had actually a lot of people reach out to me, first time, they're excited, they want to run. And sure enough, that district isn't the district they live in. And it's because it's incredibly unclear, unless you go to your local Board of Elections website, you pull up the district map, and even then it can be pretty unclear. You're not sure, is this side of the street in this district, or is it the other side of the street?
It really comes down to that. I mean, a perfect example, of course, is the infamous district of the late Louise Slaughter, also known as the Headphone District, because it consists of the cities of Rochester and Buffalo and a narrow strip of apple orchards hugging the Lake Ontario southern shore in between. So if you look at it on a map, it looks like a pair of headphones.
Yeah.
And then I think it's the 130th, the Assembly District, which is Livingston County, and it's Hornell, and it's Pittsford, and a couple of towns in western Monroe County.
Yeah.
Most of that geographic area having very little in common with each other.
Yeah. So the absolute best way to know what district you're in is actually check your voter registration file. And I'm just going to say, if you're looking to run for office and you're not registered to vote, you better do that first. Because if you can't vote for yourself, there's a problem. But you can look up your voter registration. It'll tell you all the districts that you're in.
Your opponents will be sure to point out.
Yes.
If you have not been voting.
Yeah. If you haven't been voting, they're going to look at that. They're going to point out. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here on Radio Free New York. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the process of how you can run for office in New York State. We'll be back in a moment on Radio Free New York.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Hi, Bob Savage here for the WYSL station. So times are tight, and you've got to watch every penny. How to get maximum advertising impact without shelling out maximum bucks? Well, there's print media. Of course, there's a reason why it's called the incredible shrinking daily paper. Then there are those penny savers and shoppers, 98% of which hit the recycling bin without ever being opened. And are you really looking for customers who are shopping for used tires and playpens? You could try cable TV, 500 channels, 12 viewers per channel. Or how about hiring some guy in a day-glow orange wig to dance holding up your sign down at the corner? If you want real advertising impact with a quality message for savvy consumers who actually have money to spend, WYSL has a giant 20,000-watt signal and 2 FM channels at 92.1 and 95.5, covering 1.4 million people all over Rochester and the region, literally all the way to Pennsylvania. Get results, save time and money. Call us, get on board, and start growing for 2020. 346-3000 or WYSL1040.com.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing the team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right. Welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and we're talking about how you can run for office in New York State. And the number one thing you need to do before you even make the commitment is make sure you live in the district that you want to run for. That's number one. It sounds very simple, but once you look at district map, you will see that could be kind of complicated. So the best thing to do, go to the Board of Elections website, look up your voter file for your address, and you'll see what districts you're in.
And plan ahead. Make sure that you vote in elections leading up to your candidacy. Make sure you're registered to vote, all that kind of stuff, because you can Be guaranteed that any opponents that you have, primary or general election, are going to check into your voting records.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. So the next thing you need to do is make sure you're eligible to run for that seat. And that kind of also sounds like one of those things that you would think is a no-brainer, but there are age requirements for certain seats, and there are residency requirements, which means you might not be able to run for that seat until you've lived in that district for a certain period of time. That could be 1 year, that could be 5 years, anything in between. So if you've freshly moved and you're like, hey, I've been here for 2 years, there's a lot of change, I want to see this and that, you might find out there's a 4-year residency requirement, so you can't run for that seat. So that's something really important to check, especially like if you don't check it and you start this whole process and you go through and find out you can't even be on the ballot, that would be very embarrassing for sure. And the people that you've rallied up to support you are going to be maybe a little less apt to support you.
And I think we had a candidate in Brighton for town board that recently came afoul of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's prevent carpetbagging, obviously.
Sure. Yep. Then some other things that you want to do, look at the things you want to accomplish and analyze that impact and see if you can in that seat. And I'll give you a really good example. I met with somebody, I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, they wanted to run for a town council position. And so, of course, I asked, well, what do you want to get done in your town? And they said, well, the first thing I want to do, I want to repeal the SAFE Act. And it was like, that's a state issue.
It's a state issue.
You know, you can't do that from town council.
We applaud the sentiment, but
Yep. So if you're thinking you're going to run, for a seat and you have a specific agenda of items you want to get done, you want to make sure that you can actually do that. Most town councils have no say in the school board budget. Like that's a school board position. From county ledge, you can't dictate how towns spend their money. So there's these things. So you want to look at what changes you want to make and make sure that the office you're seeking aligns with those changes. Because if not, what you're going to do is you're going to run into the situation where your platform is essentially stuff that you can't do. And people will look at that and go, yeah, this person's really inexperienced, which of course you're going to be inexperienced. It's your first time running. It could be your second or third time running. You might still be inexperienced. But that's generally acceptable as long as you have a good idea of what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing at all, that's going to cause some problems. And if you run on a platform that you clearly can't accomplish, your opposition is going to have just a field day with it. I mean, they're just going to drag you across the media and so doesn't know anything about this position. Next thing is, and this is really important, I can't stress this enough, you need to go to a legislative session for the office that you're running for, preferably 2 or 3 of them at a minimum. Because if you want to run for, say, a county legislative seat, and you've never been to a county ledge session, and you've never sat in on committee meetings, you don't actually know what the job entails. And when you talk about how things work, people who understand how the process works are going to very quickly realize that you don't understand how it works and that you haven't been to, a meeting. And that to them is just going to say that you're not prepared. And that's not going to inspire trust in your campaign or your candidacy. And that's just like another way to really hurt yourself before you even get started. So definitely attend those sessions. They're extremely boring, and you might realize right from the bat that like maybe this isn't for me. Maybe my activism should be geared elsewhere. Or maybe you go through and you're like, wow, this is 100% for me, and I can immediately see where I can bring change and better governance. But until you do that, you don't know. All right. So next item up, which is very important, is you need to figure out how feasible this is for you. By the way, this is all still before you talk with your family about potentially running, because all of this is you figuring out if you believe you can achieve these items, and if it makes sense for you to run for public office. And this is not to discourage anybody. This is because I really hope that you guys run for office, and I really hope that you take this advice, and I hope that you're successful and you guys help us change New York to a place that is much better than the place we're at today. Because I know right now today, most of you guys listening to the show are probably thinking about leaving New York or wishing that you could. So this isn't meant to be like scary stuff. This is like what you need to know to make change. So next thing is you're going to go to the Board of Elections website, and you are going to look through the campaign finance reports. You need to see how much money was spent in the last election. And you need to pull up the voter numbers too from the last election for this seat. How many people ran? How many voters actually voted? What was the vote split percentage? You want to know, do you need to reach 1,000 voters, or do you need to reach 15,000 voters? That's going to determine what you tell your family is how much time you need to spend on the campaign. 1,000 voters, that's pretty small. And some districts have 200 or 300 voters. That's doable. You can door knock every single one of those yourself, have a personal conversation, and talk them through the changes you want to see in your local community, which I think is really important. I think Bob would say, like, talking to somebody running for office is probably the best thing, that you could have. But if it's 15,000 voters, you're going to have to be realistic about, okay, I'm going to need to do some mailers. I'm going to need to do some town halls. It's going to be way harder to reach all of these voters.
I have to buy some media.
Yeah, got to buy some media, which means fundraising is going to cost more.
Radio, postcards.
Yep, absolutely. In the big campaigns, maybe even do television,
That's tricky though, because the creative is so critical.
Oh yeah, you got to have a real good team for that.
Bad TV is worse than no TV.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you need to look at the campaign finance reports and see how much money did each candidate who ran the last two elections, how much did they raise and how much did they spend? Because that's going to give you at least a ballpark on what this could cost you, how much you need to fundraise, and also look very critically at how much the incumbent spent versus a newcomer, because you're going to be a newcomer. You're going to have to spend way more than the incumbent because they're known. They have great name recognition. Unless you're like, I don't want to say like a star in your community, but like if everybody knows you on a first name basis in your community, then you don't have to spend as much money to get that name recognition, but it's still going to be like a really, really important piece to winning your election. People need to know who you are. They need to know what your face looks like, and they need to know if they feel they can trust you or not. So all of that being said, this is all the stuff that you need to do before you approach your family and say, hey, I want to run for this seat, because they're going to have those questions. But there's one more thing you got to look at, and that is how many signatures do you need to get your name on the ballot? That is so important, especially because New York State is trying to change this right now. They're trying to make it way harder. So that's the other thing I want to encourage you guys. This year is going to be a lot easier to get your name on the ballot than any other year after this, unless the New York State campaign finance reform gets repealed. If it doesn't, this is going to become significantly harder for you. So in small districts, you might only need 10 signatures to get your name on the ballot. But that could go all the way up to 10,000 signatures to get your name on the ballot. And they have to be registered voters, registered to the party you want to represent, the party that you want your name on the ballot. So this means door to door, guaranteed.
10,000. Wow, that's tough.
Yeah.
For a local office?
Probably not for local. Like, I'll give you an example. Statewide office was 15,000 in 2018. It was 15,000, and you always had to collect more. So we did like 34,000 signatures to get our names on the ballot, because they'll cancel out certain signatures. They'll say they're not valid. All right. right, guys. So there it is. That's all the stuff you need to think about before you approach your family about running for office. It's a lot, I know. You're going to have to go on YouTube, rewind this, and listen to it like 5 more times to let it all sink in. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back in a moment on Radio Free New York.
Hello and Merry Christmas to our friends in the Twin Tiers listening to WENY, The Patriot, 1230 in Elmira, 1450 in Corning, 103.3 and 106.9. Also WAC, AM and FM up in Newark, 1420 AM, 96.9 FM. We'll be back.
Now, more than twice the power.
WYSL.
More powerful FM 92.1, FM 95.5 West, and 1040 AM WYSL Avon Rochester.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for today. Looking at lots of sunshine, very mild. Temperatures should top out right around 50 degrees or so. For tonight, partly to mostly cloudy. A weak cold front will come by with a sprinkle or a flurry. We'll drop back into the upper 20s on Tuesday. Partly sunny, a bit colder in the 30s. Christmas Day, mostly cloudy in the 40s. I'm Rich Cornelia on WYSL.
It's Employee Pricing Plus during Big Finish 2019. Now with the all-new Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Anthony Drive off Route 96 in Victor. For a limited time, lease the 2019 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo 4x4, just $269 a month for 42 months. Features V6 power, 8-speed automatic, remote keyless entry, and more. MSRP $37,390, 10,000 miles per year. Includes returning lessee and Grand Cherokee lease loyalty. Or lease the 19 Ram Warlock 1500 quad cab 4x4 pickup for just $279 a month for 42 months. 10,000 miles per year, MSRP $41,090. Must be Conquest lessee. Includes Ram bonus coupons. Has V8 power, remote keyless entry, locking tailgate, and Uconnect. Or lease the 2020 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 with automatic metallic clear coat and more. Just $239 a month for 42 months. MSRP $28,545. Must be Conquest lessee. Not everyone will qualify for these leases. It's the all-new Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram 6560 Anthony Drive in Victor. Save big on America's favorite four-wheel drive vehicles.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Get everyday savings without big chain store hassles and find out why Family Furniture is the shopping destination for thousands all over the region. Need a new mattress? Shop the full selection of Restonic sleep sets made in nearby Buffalo, including Comfort Care and Scott Living mattresses with a 180-day sleep satisfaction guarantee. Instead of the big Rochester showrooms, shop Family Furniture in downtown Perry, serving you for over 70 years. Open Monday and Tuesday till 5:30, Wednesday till 12:30, Thursday and Friday nights till 7, Saturdays till 4.
Human trafficking is when someone is being forced, tricked, or coerced to engage in a sex trade or forced labor. If you're a kid and forced to sell sex, drugs, or work against your will, that's trafficking. You're not a criminal, and there is help available. Call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888 or text Be Free. Sponsored by the Livingston County Safe Harbors Human Trafficking Task Force.
A healthy smile has health benefits beyond just teeth. It's whole body wellness. Don't live with broken, missing, or failing teeth. Lakeview Dental can restore your smile with state-of-the-art dental care. Their approach is providing reliable, comfortable solutions for the long term. Eliminate those endless visits to deal with recurring problems with your teeth. Address your dental concerns once and for all. Find out more at LavoniaSmiles.com or call 346-3028. Lakeview Dental, for the smile of a healthier you.
Eyes on Rochester is a full-service ophthalmology office, and we specialize in general ophthalmology, taking care of people from childhood to adult and seniors. We do general eye exams. We specialize in cataract surgery, corneal surgery, and disease, as well as LASIK surgery. We also have a full-service optical shop and contact lens fitting service.
Visit Eyes on Rochester at 1157 Fairport Road.
MGM Insurance, 1745 Penfield Road in Penfield says, insurance industry experience may be in Asian and lax markets, a support person needing better growth opportunities. Bring your experience to MGM. Call MGM at 585-381-7008. MGM is an equal opportunity employer and offers great compensation and benefits. We treat our team members like family. Grow your income. Grow with us. Call MGM today. It does Radio Free New York. Opportunity for you. 585-381-7008.
Itchy trigger finger.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and we're talking about running for office in New York State. And
for those of you who are kind of crazy, did I say that in my out loud voice?
Yep. No, it's true. I mean, it's no simple undertaking. It's not, something that you just get up and do for fun. I mean, you might think that until you get into it, and then you're like, what did I sign myself up for?
Do it for fun? Seriously?
Yeah. So with that being said, I want to make sure that that you guys know what to do in advance so that you can have a successful campaign, and so that you could do this and not walk away like some people did. Statistically speaking, you're not going to win your first election.
Okay, so this is it sounds like a glib question, but it's really not. How much money do you need?
So that's going to depend a lot on the campaign you're running, right? So a local seat, chances are 10 to 20,000 is a good starting spot. Like in maybe a small,
like a school board or a town board.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, if you've got like an evenly split district, I would say if you've got a very heavily one-sided district, it could be less. If you're running on Team Red and you're running in a red district, maybe it's going to be less. If you're running on Team Blue and you're in a blue district, maybe it's going to be a little less. But it kind of depends, right? I mean, there are campaigns that have been ran on like $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. I don't know that they've been successful, but I would say local race is probably 10 to 20,000 as a starting point. Depending on how well contended that race is.
Wow. So that would be local and county?
Yeah, county races can be done for a lot less just because they're sometimes like very small. So you might be able to do a county race for 6,000 to 8,000, but I would think that that's mostly going to be for incumbents sitting comfortably in a district that's heavily skewed in their direction.
Wow. So, but still, I mean, if you're going to spend $6,000 to $8,000 on a campaign, you've got to earn probably 10 or 11,000.
Yeah.
To have that money at your disposal.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money to sink into an election.
Yep. Now, if you're going to run, a higher seat, think district attorney, county exec, kind of like county-wide seats, any judicial seats, figure that's 6 figures pretty easy out the door. Same thing with assembly districts, Senate seats, definitely congressional campaigns, 6 figures, and I would say north of 300,000 pretty easily.
I was going to say, because that's a wide range. That's 100,000 to 999,000.
Yep.
So 3 is a safe bet?
I think so. I think that that's a good starting point for a successful campaign. Now, and here's the thing: sometimes people want to run a campaign to bring issues to light, and I'm not a huge fan of this, but it's something that some people do. So you might feel very strongly about, let's say, Common Core, which I think a lot of us feel very strong about Common Core. You might decide, hey, I'm not going to run a successful campaign. I know this going out the door. However, I want the media attention for my specific cause. So you start a campaign and you run, say it's for assembly, and you know you're not going to raise more than $10,000, but you're going to be in the media's face talking about Common Core as much as you possibly can so that more people see it and more people are aware of it. But your end goal isn't to actually get elected because you know it's not feasible, like with your current resources. People do that. They do that. It's called like an awareness campaign. You could do that and you could run it a lot less, but I'm trying to talk about, successful campaigns. You're probably looking at, for a seat like that, $300,000, I think, is what you need to spend. And that doesn't mean you're going to win. It's not like, oh, I hit the bar. Yay, I'm going to win now. No, because there's a lot more that goes into it. So with that being said,
for instance, can you say a lot more?
Yeah. So,
are you going to get into this more specifically?
Yeah, we can. I just want to say that before we get into that, it's really important to, once you've gotten all that research, talk with your family. And really ask some hard questions of yourself and hard questions of your family. First one probably being, are they ready to share you with everyone else? Your time and your resources, because you're not going to be home as often. You're going to be out knocking on doors. You're going to be at public events. You're going to be meeting with constituents and hopefully donors to fund your campaign, which means less time at home with your family. You, based on the campaign you're running, you need to be honest with yourself and with your family about if you're going to miss work because of it, and how much work is that going to be, and is that going to impact family finances? Is your family ready to be in the spotlight? Because depending on the race, like, a zoning board race or a town council race or something like that, probably you'll get lucky if there's one media article about even your campaign, but if you're running, a county-wide or a statewide race, absolutely. There's going to be a spotlight on you and your family. So are they okay with these things? Can you guys cope with that? Is that all right? If so, move forward. If not, it's probably not a good fit. I know people do it anyways, and it happens, but it's worth talking about for sure. So Bob, you had a question. Let me get back to that question real quick. One question I had is, presumably in most cases you're going to be running on either a Democrat or Republican ticket. Yep, could be. I know that's probably not something you want to hear as a libertarian, but just the numbers just say that, right? Absolutely. So it's almost it goes without saying, you're going to have a relationship with the party, with the party structure and everything else, and that can take, I would assume, several forms. I mean, lots of times the parties will support a candidate that they feel is worth investing in, financially and otherwise. So how do you strike out in that direction? So that's a really good point. So there's two approaches, and depending on your personality, you'll take one or the other. But the first approach is building the relationship with a party, right? So that could be volunteering on other campaigns year by year, showing that you're vested in that party. And this goes for any party: Democrat, Republican, Green, Libertarian, Independents, any party. You showing up, you being there, you volunteering your time and your resources are what's going to build that trust with them. Sign up for a role in the party, become a secretary, become a treasurer, become a chairperson, so that people see you, they see how you lead, and they'll kind of develop their own opinions about whether or not they want to support you. So that's like one way to do it. You could just show up to the party and say, hey, I want to run, and this is why I think you should support me. And they might not. There's no guarantees anywhere. You could, in the instances of some parties, just make a large donation and wow, you get their support, because that's how New York is. I'm not advocating for that. I don't think it's ethical, but that's what happens. There is another thing you can do. Some candidates have done it. It has a moderately low success rate, but you don't need the party's blessing to do anything. As long as you're registered to that party and collect your signatures to get your name on the ballot, you can run as a candidate. And whether or not the party supports you or not is really just a question of if the party directs resources in your direction. So you could say, hey, I'm going to run as a Republican or I'm going to run as a Democrat, but I don't like any of those people. And if you don't, I don't know why you'd be running on their ticket, but there's strategy behind it. And if you're registered to one of those parties, you could go out, collect the petitions and file and become a candidate without ever even speaking to party leadership. Now, chances are very good that when the party finds out that you're doing this, they will put their resources behind somebody else if they don't like you, and they'll run a primary against you because it's their private club and they don't want you involved in it if you're an outsider. So yeah, it's having the party's backing, definitely beneficial, but you might not want that. You may want to truly be independent of that party structure. All right, guys, you're listening to Radio Free New York. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back in a moment.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
Human trafficking is when someone is being forced, tricked, or coerced to engage in a sex trade or forced labor. If you're a kid and forced to sell sex, drugs, or work against your will, that's trafficking. You're not a criminal, and there is help available. Call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888 or text Be Free. Sponsored by the Livingston County Safe Harbors Human Trafficking Task Force.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. We are talking about how to run a campaign in New York State to boot out some of those elected officials that don't belong there and replace it with people who actually care about the community and want to see some good change.
Okay, so I got to turn the mic on before you start to talk. Anyway, this is the art of consensus, right? I mean, that's what politics is all about.
Yep.
The cynical say, yeah, selling out. But it's more nuanced than that, obviously. So in this process, I would assume that somewhere along the way, you're going to want to recruit the assistance of other people who are elected officials.
It could be. I don't know that. Well, you know what? You see it in our area happen often with judicial candidates, that they will go along together and kind of like vouch for each other. You see that a lot with those candidates. I don't see it as much, at least in Monroe County, and you might be listening in a different county and may be very different for you. In Monroe County, I don't see it as much with other candidates. Now, I would say, though, that maybe that's more heavily on the Republican side, because the Democrats are all about supporting each other and really kind of like elevating each other. New people running, they'll kind of gather around and support and invite all of their people to come.
It's all about the party, right?
Yeah. So that might actually be, something that the Democrats are a lot better at than the Republicans, and maybe a good criticism of the local Republican Party that you don't see that as much as you do with the Democrats, especially in the city of Rochester. I mean, they throw an event and there's like every elected Democrat official there, and then every potential up and coming, Democratic candidate there that the party's supporting, not the ones that the party's not supporting. And they're pushing them like really hard. Whereas with the Republican Party, I just don't see it as much, except the judicial candidates definitely. Like they travel together as a crew, they do events together, and they really push each other. So yeah, absolutely. But that brings up another good point is you can't run these campaigns by yourself, or very rarely can you. I can think of one person in particular who ran one or two successful campaigns virtually by himself. That's Tony Michike. And he had some support, but it seemed very little in terms of volunteer and people and finances.
What did he run for?
He ran for County Ledge up in the Charlotte area. He did take a seat twice. He didn't win his most recent election. But he's one of the few candidates that I think just was able to truly do enough door-to-door himself that the team was, he didn't have a big team. He had a very small team. And that I want to tell people that's very rare. That doesn't typically happen. You need a team. You need things like a campaign manager. You need a treasurer. You need somebody to help you with media relations. You need somebody to do fundraising. You need a volunteer coordinator, and you need a lot of volunteers. And then if you have a big campaign, you might have a separate events coordinator, a social media director, a policy director, and a coalition leader, and this is just kind of like your executive team, if you will, or your team of directors. And each of them holds like a really specific role. But the one that everybody leaves kind of to last, almost like always, that should actually probably be the first or second position that you find, is really the treasurer. And the reason is you have to do finance filings to the state and to the local county board of elections for every penny you receive to your campaign and every penny you spend out. And it needs to be filed and publicly available, and there's very specific deadlines. If you don't meet those deadlines, forget what the state's going to do to you. Just think about how that looks to the people who are potentially going to vote for you and trust you with their tax dollars.
Yeah. What kind of a manager are you going to be of the public trust?
Yeah. If you can't do something as simple as make your filings and do them on time and have them be accurate, how can the people trust you to put together their budgets and vote on them and allocate their money appropriately. This is probably the biggest downfall I see for a lot of like small grassroots campaigns is they very quickly get overwhelmed with treasury stuff. Their gut feeling is that they're going to do the treasury part themselves or their wife or some family member. And I tell every candidate, do not ever touch the money. As a candidate, you don't touch the money. You have nothing to do with receiving the money. You have nothing to do with spending the money. You have a treasurer for that reason, and they cannot be a family member. So at no time can you ever be accused of mismanaging campaign funds.
So where do you recruit somebody like that?
CPAs are a great fit for that type of role. So if you've got somebody who does your taxes, start with them. Somebody who's a bookkeeper is another, good thing. You can do it without a finance background. It's just really convoluted. I was a treasurer for 2 years. And I tell you what, the way you do these filings, I've ran my business now for 12 years, right? And as a treasurer, there is no overlap besides money in and money out. That was it. But the way you file to the state is very cumbersome. Their software is terrible. The way you account for things is awful.
Of course.
No part of it is good. So you really have to either have a financial background or be willing to go to the Board of Elections classes on how to do this and be ready to call them pretty frequently to get the right advice. And then chances are still good, at least once or twice throughout your term as a treasurer, you are going to get a nasty little letter from New York State Board of Elections saying you screwed something up. But luckily, you just fix it, adjust it, refile it. No big deal. But to me, one of the biggest downfalls to a lot of campaigns that are getting started is they start collecting money without having a treasurer who's separate and independent. And it just puts your campaign in a bad spot, especially if you miss a filing. It just looks real bad. So,
and needless to say, whatever treasurer you appoint, bring on board, this has to be somebody who's, of impeccable personal and professional integrity.
Yeah. And that's anybody you put on the leadership positions of your campaign. Just imagine what that does to the PR of your campaign if it comes out in the middle of your campaign that your campaign manager was video surfaces that they assaulted somebody, even if it was 6-7 years ago or whatever, then your character comes into question because you're the person that appointed those people. So yeah, very, very important to make sure that you do proper vetting and background on anybody who's going to be on your team.
Okay, so a lot of pratfalls here, pitfalls. What's the upside to running for office?
So the upside is you're out there fighting for change, that you want to see in the state. I know a lot of people, they feel that their only answer is to leave the state. And for me, I'm not ready to accept that yet, which is why I've ran for office. And I think that there are many other people that you feel the same way. You see what's going on. You know it's wrong. You want to do something about it. This is that opportunity. Now, you could be really cynical and say that there are many other upsides in New York to running for office. Apparently, there's a lot of bribe money to be had.
No,
there's a lot of.
He's just kidding, folks. Just kidding.
But no, I mean, seriously, there are some bad positives to holding office in New York right now.
Bad positives?
Well, when I say bad positives, I mean they're immoral things that shouldn't be there right now. Like having
moral risk type stuff.
Yeah. You having influence in things that could better your personal standing, the things that people are going to jail for today. And those are the reasons I hope nobody is looking to run for office. If you're running for office, I want it to be because you want to see a better New York. You want to improve your community. You want to lower taxes and see responsible spending. Maybe you want to make government just a little bit smaller, a little bit more efficient. Those are the things that you could look to as this is why I should run for office. And I would definitely encourage people, if you're thinking about running for office and you're wondering where the appropriate impact you can make is, there is a specific set of offices that I feel is often overlooked, but I think is just so crucial and so important. And that's school board. That's school board, because the kids and the education they get today is what shapes our future for tomorrow. And I think that we can all look at this right now and say, yeah, we've failed as society in that department.
Well, look at the results. I mean, look at what kids don't know now. I know I'm sounding like, get off my law, Mr. Curmudgeon, but unfortunately, it's true.
Yeah.
A lot of young people are woefully ignorant about a lot of important issues, particularly having to do with, how the country works.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on Radio Free New York. Oh, sorry. We'll be back again tomorrow for a special Christmas Eve special.